You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
I can't wait to have our conversation today on how exercise needs to start to be viewed as something more than just transforming the body. One of the reasons why I included in my de-stress protocol is that exercise has the ability and the power to regulate your immune system. And that's what I want to share with you here today. So people dealing with autoimmune-based disorders or inflammation, pain, allergies, asthma, migraines, headaches, skin conditions can begin to truly understand that exercise is as powerful and can be as powerful as nutrition. It is and can be as powerful as meditation, as nutritional supplements. Because remember, that de-stress protocol, diet, exercise, stress reduction, toxin removal, rest, emotional balance, supplements, and success mindset, none of those are necessarily more important than the other. They really aren't. Like, one isn't weighted more than the other. And if anything, we would say, well, maybe the mind, right? The emotional or success mindset are probably the most powerful because nothing can overcome those. You can't overcome that with diet. You just can't. But here's the thing. Exercise has the ability to boost endorphins. It has the ability to overcome depression. We've seen this in studies. I'm not just saying that. I would never just say that if there weren't many studies that showed exercise beats the placebo. It beats the antidepressant medication. I mean, how phenomenal is that? But now let's look at exercise in a different light besides just mood. Let's look at it in terms of controlling cytokines. Now, if you've never heard of the word cytokines before, I want to share this with you today. Cytokines are a bit complex because they are chemical messengers within the body. They're proteins, and they can be actually divided from there. But what happens is cytokines work to regulate the inflammatory processes in the body. So they interact with your cells, your immune cells. They will modulate inflammation and cellular signaling and processing in terms of localized tissue-based area, like the issue itself. Let's just say like you have issues with the elbow or like with rheumatoid arthritis you might have in the fingers. Okay, so what we're doing is we're sending cytokines locally and specifically at the tissue at that area. And that's increasing the inflammatory process. Well, there's also the power to decrease this inflammation as well, as I'm going to show you in just a moment. And cytokines are not all the same. So they vary in type. So we have some that are immunoregulatory. They balance the immune system, and we hope for that, right, during autoimmune-based issues. And some are pro-inflammatory. And they come out with allergies, and they come out with asthma, and they come out with many inflammatory autoimmune issues, such as psoriasis or, well, pick ones. Lupus, you can look at fibromyalgia, and you can look at rheumatoid arthritis. There are many out there. And then it's also based on the immune cells themselves. So we have some, like chemokines, that can actually work to kill cancer cells and other cells within the body. We have lymphokines made by lymphocytes. We've got monokines made by monocytes, other white blood cells in the body. And we have interleukins, and that's one of the big ones we'll be talking about today, interleukin 6. You don't need to know what any of this means, but if you hear me say things like interleukins or lymphocytes or anything like that, we're really talking about white blood cells. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a normal level of white blood cells in the body. If we have too many, okay, the body's going to be inflamed. It's overactive. The immune system's overactive. And we have too few white blood cells. And again, it might be lymphokines, it might be, or lymphocytes, it might be monocytes. But what we have is then we have an underactive immune system. We don't want either, right? We need the immune system to be active enough where we're killing cancer cells and other things, pathogens that should not be in our body. And we don't want it too active where we're constantly inflamed and we're breaking down. So this is a complicated topic, But here's the amazing thing. Here is the amazing thing. We don't need to know how this works. You don't need to know how this works. But what you do need to know is by eating healthy, nutritious food, mainly anti-inflammatory foods, mainly plant-based, you're getting the benefits right there. Now, if we combine the exercise with that, what we're able to do is actually create an appropriate immune response. The same thing that drugs today, like biological-based drugs they're using right now. They're literally using drugs to shut down your immune system for things like plaque psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis. And I know that the people who take them, they get their symptoms removed. But the problem is their immune system then becomes weakened because it was not done through a natural process. So they're more susceptible to other issues like pneumonia and other things that are much more preventable. So it's not that I don't want people to get the results they need. I absolutely do. And I know not everyone's willing to go the natural-based route. But my philosophy is this. If you don't go the natural-based route, you're only prolonging the inevitable, meaning that you never fix the true inflammatory process that's been festering in the body. The rain barrel absolutely did begin to overflow. Now, you can artificially lower it and empty that rain barrel and bail it out through biologic-based drugs and things that suppress the immune system. But it's going to catch up. It's going to catch up because what happened was you didn't empty it through foundational-based protocols. You didn't find out what those toxicities are. You didn't find out what those deficiencies were. And even though I'm asking you to use exercise to help modulate it, I am still saying, listen, do we need to do the heavy metal detox protocol? Do we need to do the functional medicine liver detox? Do we need to do, what do we need to do? There are things that we may need to do. But here's the thing. We still want to reduce symptoms. We still want to modulate inflammation. This is exceptionally important to me. So, I talk about a lot of topics, of course, on the Cabral concept. But, my family is just super prone to inflammatory diseases of the body. All of my grandparents had rheumatoid arthritis. Both of my parents had rheumatoid arthritis. At 17 years old, 18 years old, I had early rheumatoid arthritis. Joints hurt, specifically the thumbs, then the left elbow. Listen, it was setting in at a very young age for me, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. We give it that extra name, the juvenile part, right? Just meaning too young to really get this adult-based disease, but yet here it is anyway. So my immune system, in this case, was actually overactive. Overproduction of these specific cytokines, and we can get more in depth, but CD8 cells that actually start to immune cells that actually start to break down the tissue in your body. And with a lot of people, it starts with the finger-based joints. So that's not a good thing because it actually disfigures those fingers. Not from an aesthetic standpoint, but it's hard to use them after that. It's painful. So I get it. Rheumatoid arthritis is no joke. It's not fun to have. But if you're dealing with lupus or Hashimoto's or MS or psoriasis or migraines or allergies or asthma, you can substitute, when I say rheumatoid arthritis, anything else you'd like for it. Because those are all inflammatory-based diseases of the body as well. So why don't, instead of us looking towards these biological-based drugs, these pharmaceuticals, which we believe is a silver bullet, which they are not. They are masking the symptoms. And I get it. They work for many people, and you begin to feel better. And again, I don't want people to suffer. If you feel like you need to do that or you've done it in the past, I would never say you're in the wrong. I would say, I get it. I get it. This is difficult to manage. But if you want a way out, there is a way out, and we need to begin to look deeper. We need to look at your toxicities. We need to run some labs. We need to look at gut function. These things matter, and they do add up in the end. But one thing I just want to share with you today, and because this is not just about exercise, this is about the immune system, and people say, well, it's just genetic, and it runs in my family, and I get that as well. It runs in my family. It does. We are prone to massive inflammatory-based issues. On my mom's side, my mother and I both had to deal with debilitating allergies for much of our life. My allergies, luckily, are better now. I did the work to work on my gut. I sealed up my intestinal permeability. I got rid of the candida overgrowth. I got rid of the bacterial overgrowth. I got rid of the H. pylori. I began to rebalance the immune system. I lowered my mast cell-based production. I increased my good bacteria in my gut. I was able to produce more diamine oxidase. It didn't happen overnight. I'm still prone to it, but I no longer have it. I don't have rheumatoid arthritis anymore. And again, it doesn't mean that like I'm special, I did anything great. No, I just followed protocols. They didn't work at first. I tweaked them, I made them better, and they work. Now I know things that if during that 1 month of the year, now my allergies start to like say, hey, we're still in the background. Well, all I use is my vitamin C. I use my quercetin, just use my Hispro. That's it. And it just keeps them at bay naturally. Again, like they've been using for thousands of years. That's because some people are more prone, depending on where you are in the world, to allergies to oak or to whatever it might be. But you want to rebalance the body. Again, your genetics matter. They're what you're predisposed to, but they're not a death sentence. They really aren't. And sometimes we feel that way, right? Everyone in our family had anxiety. Everyone in our family had depression. Everyone in our family had rheumatoid arthritis. Everyone in our family had allergies. It goes on and on. And I just want people to know that they're not powerless, right? That there's something you can do about this. But I also want now to switch modes. I want to begin to understand exercise is great for body transformation, okay? So use it for body transformation. I'm okay with that. If that's the catalyst to get you moving, good. But let's now think about this differently, because there's a lot of people who are good with their body, don't need to transform anything. And it does not mean they shouldn't be exercising, because exercising more times than not, 9+ times out of 10, is going to lead to better health. It's going to lead to better aging and more longevity. Okay, so better quality of life, I mean by better aging, and more longevity. So you'll live longer, but you'll also be stronger, because you don't want to live medicated your whole life. I don't know, I've just seen too many people live out their 60s, 70s, and 80s medicated, and it's a 30-year process of just joint pain, inflammation, and it's just not the life that I want for anybody. Okay, so today I just want to share one study with you. This is one of hundreds, okay? So if you want to know more about this, people email me all the time. Can you send me an article on this? You can do it. Again, take control of your own health. You can do this. Just type into Google, exercise and balancing inflammation. Exercise modulates inflammation. And you will find so many articles from the U.S. National Library of Medicine, the National Institutes of Health, on PubMed, that gives you all of this data. And it's not overwhelming. Like, you can absolutely read these studies. Now, you might not be able to get into the nitty-gritty, but there are also a lot of articles around this. So you don't need someone to be able to give you this. Like, you can do this. You can. And I want you to do it, because when you do this, it's empowering. So I'm just going to share with you just one study. Again, there are hundreds, but the podcast will get very boring if all I do is read research to you the entire time. So I'm going to read this study to you. Okay, so basically we've set the stage now. You know how the immune system starts to work. You know about chemical messengers. You know about cytokines. And you understand that an imbalanced immune system is what leads to greater amounts of inflammation, which then also exacerbates all essentially diseases out there. But if we trace backwards, so just let's trace backwards a little bit before this, we have inflammation. And then before that, we have these chemical messengers such as cytokines. It's only one part, but it is a specific part of the immune system, and the cell signaling. And then there's before the cytokines, which might be the gut issues, the heavy metals, the viruses, stress, etc. So remember, when people tell you, oh, you need to work on inflammation with the disease, it's not that I discount that. It's just that it's nowhere near the root cause, right? So the inflammation itself is not a root cause. The inflammation happens just below the surface that is definitely exacerbating the autoimmune disease or your diseases in general. No, there's no doubt about it. Inflammation's a big part of your symptoms, but it's still a symptom. It's not root causal. There's something that always causes the inflammation. I did a whole podcast on this. Basically, it was just a 20-minute rant, but it went in depth. It's just to let people know the root causal issues are the deficiencies in nutrients, micronutrients, the deficiency, or macros, by the way, the deficiencies in specific vitamins, minerals, all the different things your body needs to run. And then there's the toxicities, and that could be gut toxicity, hormone toxicity, sugar toxicity, stress toxicity, viral toxicity. Those are all toxicities. So like at the end of the day, we're lumping things into buckets. What am I short on? What am I deficient in? What do I have too much of? Or what am I toxic in? And again, that can be stress and it can be gut-based issues, etc. So what we're really saying is those are the root causes, figuring those out. And then it's okay. In the meantime, we also need to manage these disease processes. So the study I'm sharing with you right now is called Physical Activity in Autoimmune Diseases. Get moving and manage the disease. This was in 2018. I believe this was published in Autoimmune Review, I believe is the name of the journal. I'll link up the study. Why don't I do this? But again, there are so many studies on exercise and immune modulation. And you can type that into Google. Honestly, exercise and immune modulation. Feel free to find hundreds of studies on it. So why don't I do this? I'm going to make sure if you head over to stephencabral.com/1497, you will see this study linked up. And why don't I give you, because I'm not going to go over this today, we're running out of time on the show, but there's a big one on, it's like over 150 studies that this meta-analysis has done with exercise in regulation of inflammation, immune axis, function, and cancer initiation and progression. I know it's a mouthful, but if people want to read over that one too, I will link that up for you as well. All right, so let's get into the study. And I just want to give you a sense of how exercise does help with this. So physical activity, by definition, is any skeletal, I'm reading the study now, any skeletal muscle body movement that results in energy expenditure. Over the last few decades, a plethora of scientific evidence have accumulated and confirmed the beneficial role of physical activity as a modifiable risk factor for a wide variety of chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes mellitus, and cancer, among others. Autoimmune diseases are a heterogeneous group of chronic diseases which occur secondary to loss of self-antigen tolerance. With the advent of biological therapies, better outcomes have been recently noted in the management of autoimmune diseases. Nonetheless, recent research highlights the salient role of modifiable behaviors such as physical inactivity on various aspects of the immune system and autoimmune diseases. Physical activity leads to a significant elevation in T regulatory cells, decreased immunoglobulin secretion, and produces a shift in the Th1-Th2 balance to a decreased Th1 cell production. Let me go over that and speak a little bit English, a little bit of English. At least I'll try. So here's the thing, especially with Th1 modulated immune dysfunction. I talk about this in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. But when you're looking at a lot of autoimmune issues, okay, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, MS, psoriasis, there is a dominance of Th1-based immunity. So what the body is doing is it's overactive in this particular area, this branch of the immune system. Exercise helps to modulate that. Okay. Moreover, I'm going back to the study. Moreover, physical activity has been proven to promote the release of interleukin-6 from the muscles. Interleukin-6 released from muscle functions as a myokine and has been shown to induce an anti-inflammatory response through interleukin-10 secretion. I won't get too deep into this, but it talks about how it's helpful in systemic lupus, in rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, inflammatory bowel disease, as well as others. Additionally, the incidence of rheumatoid arthritis, MS, IBD, and psoriasis have been found to be higher in patients that engage in less physical activity. So as we go over the entire study, we begin to do this. We begin to see that the more these people began to exercise, the more they began to modulate their immune system. And what that means is this. The more they began to exercise, not overdoing it. They didn't ask the people to run a marathon. They asked them to begin to get their bodies moving more. They asked them to begin to walk a little bit more, to do a little bit of cardio, to do a little bit of strength training. And what happens is we begin to place small, what are called hermetic stressors in the body that tell the body, okay, we need to respond to this micro-inflammatory based issue that just happened with exercise. And exercise and that movement itself begins to tell the body how to respond in kind. As we begin to do the right things for our body, mainly plant-based foods, exercise, reducing stress, the body begins to shift. It actually begins to reduce stresses in all forms in the body. It begins to modulate cytokine-based activity, begin to gradually, over time, decrease inflammation, And as a result, we simply don't have the pain, the tissue breakdown, the skin issues, the headaches, all of those things that come from this inflammation. Now remember, as I just said to you before, about 5 minutes ago, inflammation, though, not the root cause of the disease. However, exercise begins to modulate the inflammation as you're also working on the root causal issues of the deficiencies and the toxicities. So if you're dealing with any type of autoimmune issue or inflammatory-based issue, what I would like you to do is go back and listen to my show on a graduated exercise program. I teach it inside of the Integrative Health Practitioner course and health coaching certification in depth. But what I always do is I give all my information essentially away for free on the podcast, chunks each single day. Because if you are not walking 10,000 steps per day, I don't want you doing high-intensity interval training. Okay? Too much in the body. Create more inflammation. So we start with the walking. We're going to move to get in the body moving, 10,000 steps a day. All right? Or if you can't walk, if you have ankle issues, if you have anything, okay, let's get on an exercise bike, an upright bike, and let's do what we can. And we're going to gradually do a little bit more every single week. Not a lot more, but a little bit more. And as we do that, our body gets used to this form of exercise. And it begins to even better modulate the immune system. It improves heart rate variability. It improves nutrient uptake. It better balances glucose levels. I mean, I could go on and on. Hormones. So if you are not doing, though, 3 workouts a week. Now, I'm only talking about 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day. I'm not talking about mega workouts. But if you can give me a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, on an upright bike at first, doing some body weight exercises, maybe in addition to that afterwards, doing a little bit of strength training after that, and working your way up, I'm telling you right now, your life could be completely different in 3 to 6 months from now. And I'm not over-exaggerating. When you begin to add a real exercise program into your life, all parts of your life get better. Just don't overdo it too quickly. That's my advice. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. As always, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your reviews on iTunes and all other media players. If you haven't left one and you could, that would mean the world to me. Thank you for your reviews of the Rain Barrel Effect. Thank you for your shares of this podcast. I truly appreciate you. Take care, and I'll talk with you tomorrow on our Best of the Week Friday review. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.